James.
I love Delingpole. Go and subscribe to the podcast, baby. I love Delingpole. I listen all the time. Subscribe with me.
I say Collum, but that's...
I think I'd say... I'm going to call you Collum because I think that's the smart English way.
It could be. You can call me whatever you want. I get called Golem. I get called everything. I got called a Holocaust denying Nazi. So everything above that's pretty much.
Do you know we have this in common? Apart from being a Holocaust denying Nazi, but I get called Gollum by my haters as well.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting because mine makes sense. Yours, I don't know.
No, the reason is okay. I'll tell you this story. About the last piece I did when I still trusted the mainstream media.
Which was when?
Quite a long
years ago. Yeah.
No,
right.
I think we're talking about 10 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
And I did a piece, one of those kind of right off the top of your head pieces for the Daily Telegraph, which is a very, very compromised newspaper. I mean, it's completely in the pay of the cabal and everything. You know, it massively pushed the COVID nonsense and everything else. And it was about, I can't remember, about the joys of fatherhood or something or whatever. Anyway, they wanted a photograph of me. And I posted up, I gave them permission to use a photograph of me in some water, swimming in Wales. And what I hadn't twigged was that this was a phase of my life where I was really quite seriously ill, and I didn't know it. And I lost so much weight.
What'd you have?
Yeah, I mean, look at me now. Imagine,
what did you have? What did you have? What?
Some kind of autoimmune or something, you know.
One of those symptom-described diseases, right?
Exactly. I lost a lot of weight, and like you could see my ribs. I mean, it was like the liberation of Belson or something. Sorry to be tasteless.
I expect nothing less. Okay.
No. And when I saw it in the papers, I was kind of horrified. I thought, what have I done? This picture of me, and it was constantly used against me. It was like you are evil, and here is proof that you are so evil because look how skinny and vile you look. And some people call me Gollum after that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I used to my Twitter feed at one point. I used to what looked like a mugshot, and I referred to myself as a man from Florida, which is always a serial killer of some kind.
Yeah. That would be you.
Yeah, that would be me.
You could be, Dave. I
could be.
So, do you know what? This is like one of those American sort of trendy American soaps, not soaps, sitcoms, where you have this section right at the beginning before the credits, where they sort of riff on something zany, and then the credits roll, and then the actual show starts. So, I'm going to start the show now, having done the zany interchange. Welcome to the Delingpole with me, James Delingpole. And I know I always say I'm excited about this week's special guest, but before we meet him, let's have a word from our sponsor. You might have noticed that the gold and silver prices have been on a tear recently. Silver prices especially. Silver's gone up like a rocket, and gold has been doing pretty well too. If you bought silver when I first started talking about it a few years ago, you would have quadrupled your investment by now. If you'd bought gold, you'd certainly have doubled it. And you're probably wondering, is it too late? Can I still get into this market and make money? Well, there are lots of reasons why you should have physical gold and silver as an insurance against a continued decline of fiat currency, the uncertainties in the conventional stock markets. I would definitely, I'm not a financial advisor, I would definitely have some physical gold and silver. And where do you buy this? Well, I would go to the Pure Gold company. You can buy your gold and silver in the form of coins, for example, gold sovereigns or Britannias or silver Britannias, or you can buy bars, and you can either have it delivered to your home or you can have it stored for you in vaults in London or Switzerland or wherever you feel is best suits your need. The Pure Gold company offers a buyback guarantee, fair prices without delay. So if you change your mind at any moment, you can trade in your gold or silver. You call their brokers to discuss your various options. They can advise you on tax issues. Will silver go up again? Yes, probably. Will it go down again? Yes, probably. But I would say you should have some silver and gold in some form, as long as it's solid silver and solid gold, not paper gold. And I would go to the Pure Gold Company, thepuregoldcompany.co.uk/James-Delingpole/. Well, welcome back to the Delingpod, Dave Collum. Dave, have you still got your job?
Yeah, I haven't gotten any grief, actually. Here's the interesting thing. I probably shouldn't say this, but no one will listen to you anyways, probably from here.
So true.
You'll probably get a lot of people from Wales. The one day I got asked to go to lunch by the guy who runs the group to oversee media and social media for Cornell, to sort of watch for flames and smoke and things like that. And so I went to lunch with him, and he said, "You're my hero."
No.
So if I ever do get in a mess, he would undoubtedly be called in and say, "Well, tell us what you've been seeing." And I think I'm going to get nothing but praise. But I also got a nice email when I was on Tucker, which was quite a surreal moment, I might add.
I want to hear more about this, but carry on. Yeah.
But I got a very nice email from I'll say a dean, because I don't want to implicate a specific dean, but saying, I don't agree with everything you said, but it was a fantastic interview. So.
Whoa.
Well, I speak high praise for the university, so there's no one out there who's beating Cornell's drum more than me. I'm very loyal to the place, so if they have a problem with what I say online, they should listen more carefully.
I mean, I have, as a non-American, I've heard of Cornell. Is it?
That's good.
So it's a good start. Is it? I mean, in the rankings, is it generally thought to be one of the top 5, top 10?
Depends on the ranking system you use. So if you're talking, I think globally as universities, I think we come in somewhere around one year we came in 15th globally and 16th nationally, which is a rather stunning stat. So what I like to say is, like in chemistry, we're one of the 15 schools in the top 10.
Okay. No, I was just thinking, I mean, I'm very, very pleasant. There are not many things that are good in the world right now. And it makes me happy to think that there might be a leading university in America, which is not totally shit. I mean,
so we got terrible press over the last couple of years because, when October 7th occurred, which we can have fun with that one too, I'm sure. In fact, the last time we spoke, you went pretty heavy into Israel, and I wasn't quite yet ready. So I was kind of waving you off, and you were digging in. You were like a tick.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. I can do it. And then since that time, the Zionists have turned me into mincemeat. And so I said, screw it. Let's talk about Israel. But a guy here, on October 7th, one of my colleagues in the humanities said that he was exhilarated. And that got national press. And one could argue that was maybe not the right thing to say, but I now understand that as a Palestinian, that's exactly what you would say, right? Finally, we struck back. And I've now, I have a friend in military intelligence who said, you're trying to understand the world. You're refusing to understand Israel, which I was. I was kind of saying, look, this is just a hornet's nest I don't want to go near. And then he told me some stuff to read, and I came out of it going, oh my God, no wonder I was avoiding it. One of them was, Steve Walt, John Mearsheimer's The Israel Lobby, which the other day, Steve Hanke in a podcast said, oh, and that's very watered down. It's very tame. It's very understated. And I'm going, you got to be kidding me.
I haven't seen this document. What is this?
First it started out as an article that they wrote that they couldn't get published in the United States.
Right.
And then they wrote a book based on the article that basically goes through all the arguments for why you might support Israel and why none of them are valid.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's the Bible for those who want to dislike Israel. That's one way to put it.
I think in some ways what legitimizes your position and my position is, I don't know where you started from, but I certainly
Zero.
So
No
I started from a position of not just zero. I mean, in
sympathy.
terms of not just neutrality, I was rabidly pro-Israel.
I was not that.
If you listen to my earliest podcast, you'll find me and my brother saying, "Yeah, we want to go to Israel. We want to go into one of those IDF training camps where you shoot at women carrying shopping, and you know, in the training ground, the urban warfare training ground. And I want to learn Krav Maga or whatever it's called. And I want to eat Ottolenghi falafels in Tel Aviv, and I love." They're so great, and they win all their wars, and they rescue whenever they wound Palestinians. They then bring them into their top-notch upmarket hospitals, and they care for them, and they've got such a bad reputation. All this stuff. So I went from there to, hang on, this is just basically Satan. I mean, their symbol, the Star of David, is literally a satanic symbol,
I know.
and so the scales have fallen from my eyes big time. And people who think I and you, by the sounds of it, are kind of rabidly anti-Semitic Nazi, ought to ask themselves, why did these guys don't seem totally thick? I mean, to be a professor at Cornell, you can't be thick as pig shit, can you? I imagine.
I don't know. I'd have to plead the fifth on that one.
Well, okay. Well, it's possible that we're not totally stupid. So what would it be that would turn us?
Well, for me, literally, I grew up barely aware of Jews in my world. So I, for example, all the way up as a professor, I was probably here 10 years before I started to realize that I had more Jewish colleagues than I realized, right? So it just wasn't a label that was in any way, shape, or form relevant to me.
There's a reason for that, by the way, Dave. I'm sorry that you weren't aware about, because sometimes they're in disguise. I mean,
well, it might be, but it also might just be that it wasn't a parameter that mattered to me. And
yeah,
they were very smart. And it turns out guys who've had the balls to do intelligence correlations with race, which is quite in the social sciences, that's high risk territory. Keep coming back to the Ashkenazi tribe of the Jews as the smartest people, and you find that's where you find all the Nobel Prizes in physics and things like that. So what I have found is, I know through the years, is when I make some reference to Jews being smarter than everyone else, that seemed to creep people out. There's two reasons. One is that there's many people who don't even like to use the term Jew, which I've attempted to desensitize myself to, but they say Jewish people. And
yes.
You sound like Miss Teen South Carolina. Remember that funny interview where she search Miss Teen South Carolina, and you'll see a very funny thing where she's asked to answer a question. She totally boned it, and she looked like a complete idiot. And she says some people, and I keep hearing Jewish people in that same sort of tone. Yeah. And you're butchering the language and avoiding the word Jew, which I believe probably has its origins in it sounds too close to Juden, which immediately gets you to Nazi Germany, sort of emotionally, right? And so I would attempt to say, look, they use it. It's a legit term. It's not pejorative. If you want to spell it Jooz, it becomes pejorative, right? But so I've tried to desensitize. But my colleagues were incredibly smart. It never crossed my mind. One of them spent 2 years in an attic before coming out and surviving and winning a Nobel Prize.
An attic in Amsterdam.
An attic in Germany, yeah, an attic in Germany. And I've had conversations with him about the origins of anti-Semitism, what happened, why does this play out the way it is, and I'd read books about ancient history and sort of was picking up on the Christians saying, charging interest is usury and we shouldn't do it and it's dirty. Let's make the Jews do it. And the joke I like to say is the Jews are sitting there going, yeah, we're up with that. They're not stupid, as I said, right? They're going, yeah, okay, we'll handle the money. You guys take care of all the dirty, grimy crap, right? And there might even have been a selection pressure for if you're not smart, you don't survive. And so that might be why that population, but it's also a very tight population, right? They've preserved their sort of history more than any other group by a country mile, I think, right? They've really stayed within the tribe. And so in any event, so I had no horse in the race, even to the point of oblivion, I would say. And then it seemed obvious to me that if you're surrounded by people who all want to kill you, that you got to be tough as nails. And so there was a certain admiration, and Radon and Tabby and stuff like that were all famous moments in my childhood, younger years, and
don't forget Ben-Hur.
Ben-Hur, yeah, and then October 7th occurred. And I was going to write about this before I got into a kerfuffle, which is very British, being on Tucker and saying something that somehow triggered the Zionists like crazy. It was a completely bizarre moment. But I was going to write about Gaza and how, look, I can't stand by and watch this anymore. I've got to criticize them. So I was going to write out this narrative of how I got here. And, Gaza is just over the top. And, guys like Dave Smith made very compelling case for why you can't blow up a building with 100 people in it because there's one terrorist somewhere buried in that building, right? And that's just not acceptable. And you can, flip the argument and say, yeah, we burned Dresden to the ground in World War II and didn't lose a lot of sleep over that one. So, but somehow I don't find those two equatable. And what finally drove me bananas, besides the Tucker interview triggering the anti-Zionists, was the realization that there's a lot of bad things we've done. I do sort of agree with we tend to be the biggest terrorists on the planet. I think it might be too hyperbolic to say it that way, but we certainly have bombed the crap out of a lot of people. And Vietnam War was actually managed. I've read a couple books on Vietnam, and we ran it as a terrorist operation. We terrorized villages. We didn't just fight Viet Cong, right?
Was that Operation Phoenix, I think it was called?
There's all sorts of stuff, but it was
horrible.
Like the My Lai massacre, for example. The defense of Cali, when he got convicted of massacring of villages, he says this was standard operating procedure. This is how we did it. And we just weren't being told that. And so there's a lot of burn the village to the ground, terrorize them, and then run, right? That sort of stuff. What's different about this particular case, I finally decided I think I understand why this one bugs me. And that is, for example, I'm a big truther. I think 9/11 was completely an inside job. I don't know the details of how inside it was. I don't know who did it. I don't know who knew. I'm pretty sure Israel knew it was coming. I think the evidence that's pretty good. And it was in Israel's best interest for it to happen. So if they knew it was coming, they're going, oh, this is opportunity. We're just going to shut our mouths. It's not completely crazy, right? That's in Israel's best interest. I can make the argument that Dick Cheney, knowing it's coming, made a decision that he felt was in the United States' best interest. Because you just say, well, what a horrible thing to do. I say, well, but we dropped people on Omaha Beach and, we made tough decisions. And if you can't make a call that's going to cost thousands of lives, you can't be in that position. You've got to be able to make that call if you say, that's what we need. And so I can make the case that Cheney actually believed that we were doing this for the United States. Not that I agree with him, that it was a good decision, but I believe that he could think it was. I don't believe the decisions our recent decisions to help Israel, I don't believe our decisions made in the United States' best interest. I think they're clearly in Israel's best interest. So that's where the America First movement has come from, is that people are saying this is no longer America First, what I'm seeing out of MAGA. So they've peeled off from the MAGA movement, pretty much, and said, I'm not MAGA, I'm America first. And so I think that the decision to bomb Iran was not in America's best interest, period.
Not in anybody. I mean, certainly not in the world's best interest. I mean, the way it's being packaged as a kind of.
You watch what's going on this morning? There's some real trouble brewing.
I tried not to watch any.
Trump put out a tweet that said, we're going to destroy the entire civilization of Iran. We're going to totally destroy it. And it was a horrific tweet. I mean, it was really, really nasty. It really sounded like, the worst of Nick Fuentes or whatever. It was nasty, nasty stuff. And everyone's appalled by it. And then Iran just said, we've cut off all communications with the United States now.
That's great. I find that very reassuring.
Well, it certainly suggests it's getting interesting. And I think Iran has been fairly measured throughout this war. They have escalated in response to the United States and Israel. And I think Iran did not want this war. I know Israel did. And I mean, put it this way. In my heart, I know Israel did. In my brain, who knows anything? But and so now you've got this situation where it's Collum's model of the world. It's just a hunch, but I believe that Iran's play is to destroy the world's economy while surviving, right? Which I'm positive they will. The Persia's been around for what, 3,000 years?
Yeah.
They're not going away. These guys, it's still going to be Persia, and I think if they can cause real damage to the world's economy, which a hot debate is whether they've already done it, right? Whether if we've already crossed some fail-safe point.
Yeah.
But if they do manage to destroy the economy, put a serious dent in it, and then everything sort of settles down and the strait opens up and maybe people have to pay Iran some money to go through the strait and stuff like that. It seems likely. What they will have achieved is that the next time Israel says, oh, we got to bomb Iran again, the rest of the world will mug Israel and say, go back home. Last time you did this, we got fucked. So I think Iran needs to make the world pay, which is why I think they were willing to whack their neighbors, even though they were whacking US-based sites and stuff, is my understanding. But
also, whenever they tried to come to the negotiating table,
they got killed.
They got killed. Israel.
That's a catastrophic decision.
Yeah.
That they thought that was so clever. With the pagers, I don't think the pagers was particularly clever. But if you can no longer go to the negotiating table, you've shut off all mechanisms to end wars.
So there were two different alternative, let's say, theories on what's going on right now, and one is yours, that the US, Trump is finally showing his true colors, that he was always a prisoner of Israeli interests because of his son-in-law. I mean, imagine sending that a member of Chabad to go and negotiate the treaty in the first place. I mean, it's just like throwing it over to a kind of millennial death cult to take care of your millenarian death cult. But also that. Well, actually, no. The alternative is that Trump is and always has been kayfabe. He's an actor, and he's playing up a side of himself at the moment that we've seen glimpses of in the past, but he's really playing it up now. I mean, that because the tweet you were talking about from this morning. The day before, there was a expletive-laden tweet. It was like a kind of potty mouth
bastards, I think he called them.
F you, yeah. I mean, I can't even believe there are many MAGA people who were impressed by that kind of.
I think everyone was appalled by the last couple of days.
So it's really embarrassing. But you see, what this does is it gives him cover to operate however he wishes. He's wrong-footed all of us, because we're all going, look at this guy. He is just beyond the pale. We cannot even engage with him as a serious person anymore. He's flipped. He's lost MAGA. He's the other sort of deep theory on this is that it's all prearranged and ultimately fake, which isn't to say that real people aren't dying and some installations aren't being blown up.
But at the highest levels, it's somehow all preordained, right?
That Iran and the US are both in on it, because Trump is going to China, I think. Is it later this month?
Smart people think this is really about China, right?
Yeah, that it's all about China. That this is a prearranged geopolitical power handover. That America is saying, right, our time in the Middle East is over. We're going to move on, and because at the highest level, the people who run the world, it's all about these cycles, isn't it? It's about a certain. I
just finished a book on part of the Roman Empire, right? It is very cyclical.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. I almost take more comfort in that, because what I don't like is the idea that what's happening now is that Iran will go so scorched earth that genuinely all the world's, or most of the world's significant oil installations will be taken out, to the point where lots and lots of us can't heat our homes, can't run our cars, and we starve to death as well because we haven't got any fertilizers. And by the way, they've already been blowing up fertilizer plants
we could already be in trouble, right? We could already be in pretty serious trouble. And I just don't know. Some people think we are. Like Doomberg, who's about as smart as anyone I know, seems to think that we're nowhere near as much trouble as the internet believes, right? But an hour before that, I was on a podcast with Hanke, who is Suharto's chief economic advisor. He's no lightweight, and he thought we were in big trouble.
And isn't this exactly where they want us? They want to keep us guessing. They want to keep us in a state of anxiety and uncertainty. And meanwhile, by the way, I mean, I'm sure you were as shocked as I am. What about the people making like bandits in the Trump administration from energy plays and oil plays based on the president's tweets?
Yeah, 15 minutes before the tweet, someone made like $500 million.
Which is quite a lot, even now, isn't it? Even with inflation, that $500 million.
Yeah, it buys a lot of takeout.
I mean, but here's the thing, Dave. This is what makes me. I
agree with you, though, that in some sense it's comforting if it's actually being orchestrated, because it means there is adult supervision.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas if it's random, then it could go emergent very quickly.
Yeah, and
it could go emergent anyways, because there was some. If you look at the history of World War I, which I now don't even know what history means anymore. I'm completely lost about how you even think about history, because you hear about World War I being the Archduke getting shot. That started it. That didn't start it at all. Not at all. The Germans had to beg the Austrians to counterattack. The Austrians, the guy was an asshole.
Do you think it would be better if we called it made up shittery? Because that would be more accurate.
I don't know. I like kayfabe. The kayfabe, we got to make sure we give credit. Kayfabe came from Eric Weinstein, who wrote an article in 2013 saying politics is kayfabe.
Did he? So, he probably had an inside track on this.
It could be, with Weinstein and all. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've had several discussions with Eric, and one thing for sure is he's very smart, as is his brother. Although, as I said to Brett one day, you two are a superior case study in nature versus nurture, because they're so different too, right? They're both brilliant, but they're brilliant in completely opposite ways. So Eric is very cocky and Brett is very humble.
Do you think Eric buys Brett nice holidays and things? And
I think they get along well.
Oh, that's good.
I first connected with Eric when Brett was on the ropes at Evergreen State, and I was out there banging the drum as hard as I could on social media, as was Eric, because it was his little brother, and we sort of locked arms and sort of attacked the woke left. And so I got to know him that way. And then I love this funny story. One night we're exchanging emails at like 2:00 in the morning, and he wanted to talk about something. I said, "Call me anytime," and the phone rings. I go, wait.
You fool.
I wasn't thinking. We talked from 2 till 4 in the morning. And I'm going, wow, Eric, time zones, buddy, time zones, do the math. but he's so smart. And you want to know smart, the smartest of them all is Eric's son. Zeb, I think his name is. He did an interview with Lex Friedman, and this 14-year-old kid was just off the charts. This 14-year-old kid looked like, Harvard graduate level smart.
Why would you want to interview Lex Friedman?
Why would he interview?
Sorry, Lex Friedman interviewed him.
That's right. He interviewed a 14-year-old son of Eric.
Yeah. I want to know. Sorry, you've. I
have ADHD. Squirrel runs by, I'm gone. Right, I'm chasing it.
You've pushed like my brain freezes over with boredom and horror at the mention of Lex Friedman. He's so boring. He's such a boring man.
He's all about love.
Is he?
He keeps using the word love. He keeps saying, I just want love.
I want to know, because I've got a kind of, I don't know, my relationship with Tucker. I love Tucker. I love him to come to my house and spend quality time. I'd love to go to his shooting lodge and shoot elk and fly fish on his private lake and go in his speedboat or whatever he does. He's great. At the same time, I think he is still CIA. He's not ex-CIA, and but I love what he says most of the time. And even though I don't trust him, I think he's wonderful. So, what was it like your Tucker experience?
Well, first of all, I quadruple checked that it was a legitimate request. So I started Googling email addresses and stuff to make sure that I wasn't being spoofed.
How did the invitation come? Was it embossed?
A booking agent reached out to me. A young damsel who was 23 and had a pistol, it turns out. And so I finally, the date got pushed back several times, and at one point I got knocked out by some president of some country, and then finally we recorded. And then about a month and a half later, he posted it. So it was a huge delay from the invite to the. And I don't know if there was timing involved, because it seemed to post at the start of an academic year, which maybe that's logical for a faculty member interview. I don't know, so they put me up in a hotel that turned out to be a former asylum, which I thought was funnier than shit. I was relieved that they had a reservation for me. I said, okay, I can finally accept the idea that I'm not being duped by some fraternity brother from the past or something.
Yeah.
We had breakfast for about an hour and a half, which is the point where he figures out who you are.
Okay.
And with me, it might have been, how do you spell your name, sort of who you are. Who did they stick me with this time? And I had sort of pre-gamed it a little bit, where I said, okay, what am I going to do with what's probably an hour and a half, 2 hours with Tucker? And I decided I was going to race him down rabbit holes that I knew he was familiar with. Okay. Things like the Las Vegas shootings and things like that, and Anthony Weiner's laptop. I had created this laundry list of rabbit holes.
Did you discuss frazzle drip?
I did discuss frazzle drip.
No.
Not explicitly, though. Not what it actually says. So the fascinating question about frazzle drip, I was on a Zoom call with Nick Bryant about a week ago, and I asked about frazzle drip. And I watched him, so he smiled and recoiled back, and he says, could you clarify that question? I said, okay, is there a video of Hillary skinning a child? and he laughed.
We should not laugh. Stop this.
I totally should laugh, but what else are you going to do in the face of this kind of horror, right?
This is the problem.
Laughter is a tension reliever, and that's why the Fed got ripped for laughing during the GFC. In their meetings, there was joking and laughing, and people were offended by it. And I go, no, you don't understand. When you're dealing with tense topics, humor really keeps the thing from getting crazy. So in any event, so for an hour and a half, we had breakfast. It was a little surreal, because during breakfast, his phone kept getting texted. He uses only text, apparently not email.
Right.
and he's getting texted by Tulsi Gabbard and Thomas Massey, and I'm sitting there going, oh man, I am so out of my league here. This is really getting ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we start, and then I race them through rabbit holes, Las Vegas shootings, Frazzle Drip at one point. What got me in trouble was 2 years ago, I'd written a revised history of World War II, in which I first read a book by Dinah West called American Betrayal, where she said, basically showed that FDR was totally controlled by the Soviet Union. His right-hand man, his chief of staff, and he was a super chief of staff because FDR was paralyzed. So his chief of staff sat next to his bed, 16 hours a day.
What was he called, the chief of staff?
Harry Hopkins.
Harry Hopkins, right.
And his chief of staff was a total Soviet spy, not just sympathetic to the Soviets. He was a Soviet spy. So everything FDR did was going through Harry Hopkins. He kept people away from FDR. And FDR had to have known, so I don't let FDR off the hook. But all the Lend-Lease program, where we supposedly, because you guys were our best friend, we gave you all this weaponry, even though we couldn't get in the war, that blah, 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 blah. We gave 20 times as much to the Soviets. We even had an absurd situation going where we gave you a bunch of stuff, and then we bullied you into giving some of it to the Soviets.
Right.
And so then it turns out that that we knew, that Stalin knew. So I mentioned this. I'm having these communications with Dinah West. I did a couple of podcasts with her, with Mike Ferris, and Sean McMeekin, who had written Stalin's War, who had reached out to me before. I didn't even remember he had reached out to me about 3 years earlier, but he says, now you have to read Stalin's War. And Stalin's War was kind of a bigger volume version of Dinah West's book.
Okay.
And it turns out, for example, Stalin, we abandoned something like 15,000 U.S. soldiers in Soviet territory and never got them back. The party line was we left approximately 18. But that turns out to be just propaganda because it was getting embarrassing. We left over 10,000, supposedly. Now,
what do you mean left them? What do they end up in?
They were in gulags. They were in gulags. We never got them back. We never got them back.
Did not. This is some new reading for me.
So if you want to read about my 2024 year in review, I went through about a half a dozen books. I'd call them alternative history, revisionist history books. I read Day of Deceit, which was about Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Where we knew it was coming to the day. We knew when it was coming.
Yes.
And Stalin knew it too. And Stalin basically wanted us to take Japan off his flank. And so it was totally in Stalin's interest for it to happen, because he wanted us to go get Japan out of his way. And then when the war was over, we still gave tons and tons of resources to the Soviet Union. We basically built the Soviet Empire post-World War II.
Global warming is a massive con. There is no evidence whatsoever that man-made climate change is a problem, that it's going to kill us, that we need to amend our lifestyle in order to deal with it. It's a non-existent problem. But how do you explain this stuff to your normie friends? Well, I've just brought out the revised edition of my 2012 classic book, Watermelons, which captures the story of how some really nasty people decided to invent the global warming scare in order to fleece you, to take away your freedoms, to take away your land. It's a shocking story. I wrote it, as I say, in 2011 actually. The first edition came out, and it's a snapshot of a particular era, the era when the people behind the climate change scam got caught red-handed, tinkering with the data, torturing till it screamed, in a scandal that I helped christen ClimateGate. So I give you the background to the skullduggery that went on in these seats of learning where these supposed experts were informing us, we've got to act now. I rumbled their scam. I then asked the question, okay, if it is a scam, who's doing this and why? It's a good story. I've kept the original book pretty much as is, but I've written 2 new chapters, one at the beginning and one at the end, explaining how it's even worse than we thought. I think it still stands up. I think it's a good read. Obviously I'm biased, but I'd recommend it. You can buy it from jamesdelingpole.co.uk/shop. You'll probably find that just go to my website and look for it, jamesdelingpole.co.uk. And I hope it helps keep you informed and gives you the material you need to bring round all those people who are still persuaded that, oh, it's a disaster, we must amend our ways and appease the gods, appease Mother Gaia. No, we don't. It's a scam.
We never got him back.
Did not. This is some new reading for me.
So if you want to read about my 2024 year in review, I went through about a half a dozen books. I'd call them alternative history, revisionist history books. I read Day of Deceit, which was about Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Where we knew it was coming to the day. We knew when it was coming.
Yes.
And Stalin knew it too. And Stalin basically wanted us to take Japan off his flank. And so it was totally in Stalin's interest for it to happen, because he wanted us to go get Japan out of his way. And then when the war was over, we still gave tons and tons of resources. So we basically built the Soviet Empire post World War II. Right. Even though we knew they were bad, we did it, right? There's just nothing here. So so in the podcast with Tucker, I sort of went that direction briefly. And it turns out that I quoted Patton, where Patton got to the end and said something to the effect, I hate to say this, but we chose to fight with the wrong dictator. We should have fought the Soviets.
Yeah.
Now, I made the mistake of using the H word, Hitler, and say, I said, you can make the argument that we should have sided with Hitler to fight Stalin. And that argument's easily made to the extent that Stalin was much more ruthless, much more lethal than Hitler. But Hitler, of course, killed the Jews. So that's the thing that keeps the attention of the Zionists. So in any event, after I made that statement, just a clause, we then proceeded to talk for maybe 2 more minutes about the evils of Stalin. So it was clearly a discussion of Stalin.
Yeah.
And the reference to teaming up with Hitler, quoting Patton, was basically a literary device I was using to introduce the topic. Well, the Zionists went bananas on me. And it started with Mark Levin and I called him a rabbit. So I had to write about it. I had to counter him. So Levin attacked me and I called him a rabid bobcat from hell and just basically called him an asshole and moved on. Ted Cruz started wailing on me, but that's because Tucker had ripped Cruz a new asshole about a month earlier. Maybe Cruz knocked me out of the loop or something to get interviewed. And Cruz had said the most horrific thing, where he said, when I got to Congress, my number one goal was to support Israel. And Tucker just, you would never debate Tucker, right? There's okay. Tucker who pretends to be stupid, and then there's Tucker the weed whacker. And when he decides to weed whack, you are going to lose some hair. Okay. And so he ripped Cruz to shreds. So Cruz was still butthurt. So Cruz attacked me. The killer was Victor Davis Hanson, who I was a big fan of up to that moment, attacked. Now, what was odd is he attacked me on 3 fundamental points of history that said were preposterous, and he was wrong on all 3. He was factually wrong. I had to counter this. So I wrote about it, and I said, Ted Cruz is the senator from the state of Israel. I referred to Meghan McCain. And I said, maybe you should ask what your mother and father were up to instead of what I'm up to. And maybe you could go back to The View. And I said, sorry, that was a low blow. And then Victor Davis Hanson, I had to methodically go through his arguments. And I'd finished going through his arguments. I was looking for a link, and I found a blogger who had ripped Hanson a new one, saying that he was nitpicking the bark off trees with his arguments. They were disingenuous. They were inaccurate, and so I went through, and like Hansen challenged the 15,000, but I had references to the original articles talking about how many were left behind, not just Dinah West's book. And then I said, I said you could make the argument that if we had chosen a different alliance, which by the way, Hitler tried to form an alliance with England before the war started.
I can tell you more about this, Dave, in a moment, but carry on.
So the gist is there were shifting alliances all over the place. So who allied with whom was really up in the air for a number of years. And it turns out Churchill's a very complex character. He's not just a sweetheart. Not that he's as bad as some people say, but he's complicated. He in 1935 said it looks like we're going to have to pick a fight with Germany, right? You can make the argument that's not a good piece of history right there. So Hansen and I said maybe there wouldn't have been a Holocaust, right? So Hansen ripped me for that, saying he had already started doing this, but he ignored these shifting alliances, and he ignored the fact that if, as I said, if you control your allies better than you control your enemy. And so if we had allied with Hitler, would he have run concentration camps? Would he, right? The various things like that. And I said, but by the way, that didn't work with Stalin, except for the fact that he controlled us. So in a sense, it worked perfectly. He controlled his allies. And so then there was another point that he made that was just total. Oh, and he said it's preposterous to say there might not have been a Holocaust. He says it's preposterous. And I go, it's a counterfactual. It's like, butterfly flapping its wings, hurricane on the other side of the world stuff. I said, historians have talked about the role of chaos theory in history. And I said, this is not a flappy winged butterfly we're talking about. We're talking about a total shift in alliances. You can't say what would have happened. Therefore, you can't say it's preposterous to suppose that maybe there would have been a Holocaust. And to say maybe there wouldn't have been a Holocaust is not exactly anti-Semitic. So Tucker countered hard on these guys, a couple of these guys, fast. But and then finally, Morty Klein, who's head of the JNS, which is some Jewish national something or other, which is JNS. I've seen pictures of him with Trump and stuff. He's big in the Zionist world. He called me a Holocaust-denying Nazi. And I said, Morty, I said, whoa, somebody needs a nap. And then I said, maybe you need to take up a hobby, Morty. And I said something like bukkake, like Harvey Weinstein, right? And then I said, we could get together and have lunch and talk about our differences, or alternatively. And then I found this great meme that looks like a Metro Goldwyn Mayer, entry opening of a movie that says, "Go fuck yourself." And
well done. You didn't.
And I also referred to him as a pig fucker.
And how did you respond to that?
Well, I didn't get a response, but to call me a Holocaust-denying Nazi really was way over the top. But I kept seeing Cruz and Levin and these guys talking. They kept referring to people supporting Hitler, and they're talking about me. When you hear that, when they say people supporting Hitler, they're talking about me.
Okay. Well, do you feel that is Tucker happy with you? Does he feel he got?
I think so.
Yeah, he wanted it.
No, but here's the other thing: is Tucker was just at the beginning of his World War III battle against the Zionists. I didn't even know that. I would have been much more careful. But he'd had Dave Smith on his show.
Yeah.
So he had Carson. He had Daryl Cooper on his show. Yeah. And so he had stirred the pot a little. But the real shit was coming after me. When he went to TPUSA and ripped into Shapiro and Shapiro ripped into Kelly. And I had no idea I was like in the first inning of a 9-inning battle.
Well, that is a really good story. I'm glad you told me that. And now, as a treat for you, Dave, in return, I'm going to tell you about a book that and I won't go on about it too much because lots of people that listen to the pod have heard about this already, or read the book even. But there is a book that you are going to enjoy as much as the ones about Stalin.
Okay.
And it is a book called Two World Wars and Hitler. Who was responsible? You can probably Google it and see what the names of the authors are. I keep.
I've got it. I've got it in Amazon right now.
You're going to love it. Basically, you have your doubts about the origins of the First World War, and you're right. It wasn't because a Serbian student called Gavrilo Princip shot the Archduke Ferdinand and his wife, thus plummeting the world into a war which no one could have foreseen.
Right.
And men with nasty spikes on their helmets rushed across the Belgian border.
Who are the baddies?
And they raped nuns and impaled babies on their bayonets. And no. That is history, as you know, is written by the victors. Right. And it was actually...
Which, by the way, a phrase I used when I attacked Victor Davis Hanson. I said, that's not a capital V, Victor.
You will learn from this book that it doesn't... I don't think it mentions Victor Davis Hanson, but he's of a type. Victor Davis Hanson, who I used to admire greatly, by the way. I read his book, Carnage and Culture, about the history of war and about how free nations will always beat sort of slave empires, which is why the Spartans...
Well, people told me that I had Victor wrong. He said he didn't change. He said you had misjudged him.
Yeah, that's probably right. So, Dave, he is what is known in the trade as a court historian. And there is a fascinating section in this book that, okay, very briefly, both the First and the Second World Wars were planned and executed by Anglo-American elites. An organization called the Milner Group, a mixture of financiers like whatever his name,
the Rothschilds.
One of the Rothschilds, whichever the Rothschilds.
I read Neil Ferguson's book on the Rothschilds, which I think was also a court historian.
That was Neil. You don't get to write the authorized biography of the Rothschild family and not be a court historian. I mean, it doesn't get any more court than that. So yeah. So I think was he called Leopold Rothschild, or anyway, the editor of the Times, a London newspaper, the Winston Churchill, Lord Balfour, Lord Grey, all these Whigs and Tories, they were all in on it. The Yale elite, all the kinds of daughters of the Revolution families, they were all in on it. And they started the First World War with two purposes: to destroy, number one, the German land empire, and number two,
Germany knew that.
The Kaiser was going, I don't want to fight you, I just want peace. And they were going, yeah, but you're evil. And all these stories about the evil Kaiser.
So Germany had to fight while they still had a prayer of beating them.
Exactly.
That's why Germany appeared to be the aggressors, because they said, if we wait, we won't be able to beat them.
Exactly.
And Europe's Last Summer is a very good book. Europe's Last Summer.
Okay. Is it?
It's a very good book. I asked Ben Steele, who wrote Battle of Bretton Woods, which honorifically I copy edited for him. And I think I'm in the forward. I listened to the audio version after I read the chapters. I just went to the audio version to do a redo on it. But I asked him, said, give me a book on World War I, and that's the book he gave me, was Europe's Last Summer.
Yeah, hang on, Europe's Last Summer, and the author is?
Oh shit!
No, okay.
No, that's not the author.
Is that sounds like a German name?
Yeah, shite. Shite. Hold on, I'll get it for you.
Anyway. But let me tell you, there's a spoiler I'm about to give you, but you're going to love this after what you were saying earlier on. Can you listen and research?
I'm listening. Yes, I'm absolutely listening.
Okay. So get this. Hitler.
David Fromkin.
David?
Fromkin.
Okay. Hitler was very likely working for MI6. And he was recruited. He was recruited by, I mean, Anglo-American intelligence were joined at the hip even then, and they were working for the elites rather than for the countries they supposedly represented. Hitler was headhunted, talent spotted, and then groomed by a guy called Putzi Heimstangl. And Putzi Heimstangl was half American and half German. And the German part of him was I think he may have even been von Heimstangl. He was, an aristocratic German family. His mother was one of the daughters of the Revolution family, with connections with Yale. So he spent 3 years at Yale, where he was presumably an oarsman and stuff, and he was in Skull and Bones, I'm pretty sure.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Oh, duh. He then
Even if it's not true, right? Duh.
So if you're an aristocratic, half German, half upper crust American, would you go to Germany, do you think, in the 1930s and befriend this impoverished failed painter who's just had this kind of actually this was before the Munich the beer garden, the Munich Putsch and thing,
right.
Would you go and hang out with this guy and
unlikely camaraderie, right?
Become his best friend? Why would you do that? There is no possible explanation. I mean, you imagine you are upper crust. You don't go and hang out with this guy. So he goes and becomes young Hitler's best friend. And he says, yeah, you can do this. And Putzi is a brilliant pianist, right? He's been trained by his nanny, he's a great concert pianist. And he writes some of the marching songs used by the SA.
Really?
At the early rallies, yes. And he says, and Hitler, when you're making speeches, you do this. Move your hands, move your body, gesticulate.
So
this
he
is
choreographed. He choreographed.
So, and I don't think that with this information, you can poo-poo the possibility of the notion that maybe Hitler was run by the Americans and the British precisely in order to bring Germany to war. Because as you say, Hitler loved, his favorite movie was Lives of the Bengal Lancers with Douglas Fairbanks Jr., I think. He loved the British. He loved the British Empire. He wanted nothing more than the British Empire to thrive. He just wanted a kind of German land empire and to destroy the communists. And Hitler was really, really taken aback when suddenly in 1939, instead of going, yeah, it's fine if you go into Poland, we won't interfere. Suddenly, he was told, well, this is war. And he was like, what?
Saddam Hussein.
They used the same playbook.
I know.
When
we gave the nod to Saddam. We gave the nod to Saddam to go into Kuwait.
You did. Or Madeleine Albright did, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Well, so the one argument against that model, so apparently we basically gave the nod. We told Saddam that what your relationship with Kuwait is none of our business, which is a way of saying do whatever you want with Kuwait. The claim, Scott Horton claims that there was sort of missteps at our State Department and that we didn't intend to give the clearance to mow Kuwait down. I don't believe it, actually. I think this is one place. Well, Scott's brilliant. So for me to say I don't think Scott got that one right is ridiculous. But I still find it a little odd that Scott defends that as a State Department misstep as opposed to as teeing up Saddam to attack him.
It's always deliberate. All the kind of evil moves they're never accidental. By the way, sorry, just changing the subject dramatically for a moment, although I think everything connects. Have you been watching this fantastical space endeavor with your heart swelling with pride at America's?
Well, I keep picking up shards of information of people suggesting that it's not even real and things like that. I just don't know. I haven't burned a lot of ATP in my brain to try to understand that one.
Well, do you remember how last time we spoke, you mentioned it at the beginning, how you weren't really up to speed on Israel and stuff?
That was me ducking. That was me
Okay.
taking cover. As you
Okay.
were heading into anti-Zionism world, I was ducking and covering. Yeah.
I'm really sorry. I don't like getting people into trouble. The last thing I want to do is get my guests in trouble. I want to make them comfortable and happy.
I can do it myself, actually.
If you don't want to go into the moon, well,
No, go ahead.
So the thing is, once you know about the moon landings and the purpose of NASA and stuff, you can never go back. You can never.
The purpose of NASA must have been just flat out, military, right?
It's a black budget project designed to amass
suck money.
$24 billion a year, I think, something like that.
Okay.
Down the Swanee, up the Swanee. Although I don't know whose pockets it goes into. But you see, the thing is, not only do they do this stuff to divide us, because obviously a significant portion of those who are awake are looking at this stuff going, and the other half of the world is going, but it's real. How can you mock man's greatest achievement? That these heroes are going to space, and it's some good news in a world of bad news. So it's part of the divide and rule technique, which the elites have always used against us.
Bread and circuses.
Partly it's a black budget, but also on an occult level. And you know these people are really into the occult at the highest levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
which I've been studying that stuff for 3 or 4 years now without writing anything.
It's weird, isn't it?
It's very weird. It's super dark weird.
So you will probably come across the notion that part of the kind of the karma of the occult, well, I mean, it's Luciferian religion, I suppose, that these people follow. They are absolved of their sins by their lights if they show us what they're doing. So if
that's such an odd phenomenon. They have to tip their hands.
It's the rule.
It's part of the rule. Yeah, exactly. This thing, right?
Yeah. I don't know who made this rule. Did you say there was a video of Eric? What's the Trump son called? Donald? Is it John?
Eric Trump.
Eric Trump. There's footage, I think, of him at either the inauguration or some similar event where he's doing this all the time, and his wife says, "Stop," and you can see him whispering here, "Stop doing that stupid thing," and he goes, "Oh, was it really obvious?" They have to show you. So, in the same way, when they do all these kind of stunts, did you see the blue, the Katy Perry rocket expedition?
There's a bunch of Yes, I saw that, and Katy Perry herself is.
What was it called? Blue Horizon or Blue Dildo?
Something. Blue dildo. Right.
Well, you see, the thing was, they designed the rocket to look like a dildo with these two kind of testicles on the side. It was so obviously fake, and yet most people believed it. And now you've got these stunts, like you've got the latest footage they've released is of a tub of Nutella going through in zero gravity past these astronauts in their pretend studio space camera. And there's another story that one of the crew has decided to name one of the craters on the other side of the moon. He's going to call it Carol, after his beloved wife. And do you know how Carol is spelled?
No.
CARROLL. So not the conventional name of Carol. It's quite an unusual spelling. Do you know who else was called Carol?
No. Quigley?
Oh, good point. But no, I'm thinking more of a children's author from.
Yeah.
And what happens in its book?
Alice in Wonderland.
Where does Alice go?
Down a rabbit hole.
She goes down the rabbit hole. So they're giving you these clues, which are for. It's an inside joke. They show you these things, and it's also a kind of mocking.
They must laugh their asses off while they're doing it too.
Wouldn't you love to be the scriptwriter for these people? It's like
Well, the one I liked the best, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it was, I just laugh every time I think about it, was when they supposedly killed Epstein,
Yes.
and the corpse that they hauled out of there did not look like Epstein. And the that people focus on the ear being wrong, but it turns out the nose was wrong. Epstein had a perfectly straight nose, and the corpse had a little bit of a hook on it. And they were not the same nose, right? And there were problems with the photographs, like that doesn't really look like where he came from, that sort of thing. There was a bunch of cases, but there was one guy who did look like the corpse, and he had died 2 weeks earlier. And they show a picture of him sitting in a baseball game with a Mets hat on, and you go, yeah, that could be the guy. And he had died with little fanfare, and they didn't explain how he died. And I'm going, yeah, they could have knocked him off, grabbed some photos, said we'll use those later. What's great about it is it was Hillary's brother.
Really?
Yes. And I'm sitting there going, so you're some deep state guy, and you spot this similarity, and you go, oh, we have got to do that. We have got. We're going to be the Langley boys. We are going to be on the Wall of Fame at Langley if we pull this one off, right?
I didn't even know she had a brother.
Yeah, well, she did.
Just
Doesn't now. And there was a question as to whether it was to send Hillary a message, or whether we're just spooks having fun. I don't know.
They are, but to be fair, they are all related. A lot of, I mean, not literally everybody, but a lot of these players in Hollywood, in politics, and so on.
Hollywood is so corrupt to the core. It's insane. The Clinton crime family is rather extraordinary. And I don't know if that crime family has roots that predate the Clintons, or whether the Clintons created that crime family. I know that they were tied with bad people when he was young, so they didn't create that part. So the whole Mena, Arkansas, and the heroin trade and all that shit, that's all real in my opinion. And heaven only knows what the Clintons are worth if you add up all the Cayman Island accounts and stuff, but undoubtedly vast sums of money. And we will see Chelsea, aka Webb Hubbell's daughter, reappear at some point.
Surely she can't be as evil as her mother.
Oh, surely she could be.
Could she?
Well, think about when you read about satanic. When I don't know. I guess you could. It's hard to top that one. But when you read about satanic cults, they feed their own kids into the pedophile networks and into the cults and things like that. It's so abiological, it makes no sense.
They do. I've done, I mean, in fact, when I'm not talking to people like you, Dave, I do actually do.
You mean whack jobs?
Well, yeah, but you actually, compared with some of the other people I talk to, you're absolutely straight as a die. You're just like a normie, virtually. So I've done a few podcasts in the realm that you've just described, of people sort of involved in the satanic elites. I've talked to members of bloodline families who've
the
been,
royal family and the Belgians.
Yeah, but people who've been, what a guy called Reynolds. You know, Reynolds is one of you. Have you come across Springmeyer's?
I've come across the name.
Yeah,
but just vaguely.
Fritz Springmeyer thinks that there are 13 bloodline families, and they've got names like, well, obviously Rockefeller and Rothschild. There's also DuPont. I mean, obviously, Collins. The Collins family own apparently District of Columbia. Literally the whole caboodle. Reynolds. Well, you think you've got Reynolds Tobacco, and you've got Lee, Li, which is the Chinese branch. Kennedy, which raises doubts about the favourable stories about JFK being a hero and bloody. I don't know what to believe there. Anyway.
But talk about a tormented family. I've been recently digging around trying to figure out why they lobotomized Rosemary Kennedy.
Did they? I didn't know.
She the photos of her makes her look like a totally normal person, and they lobotomized her.
And why did they lobotomize her?
23 years old. That's what I'm digging around trying to understand.
No,
they lobotomized her.
So
you got JFK who dies, RFK who dies, JFK Jr. who dies, Rosemary Kennedy who gets lobotomized. You got Teddy who's just a loser at this point, but you can't blame him. So then I was in a doctor Zoom group that originated from the COVID story when these doctors said, wait a minute, this is all wrong. So pretty early on, I got into this twice a week Zoom group, and we had every famous anti-vaxxer on the planet go through the Zoom group at one time or another. And one of the very first Zoom calls was Bobby Kennedy. And he jumps right in right at the beginning saying there is not a snowball's chance in hell with Sirhan killed his father. Not a chance. He said that you could not have gotten a conviction in a court of law. He was a total patsy. Yeah. And he said for years he ignored the data. And finally someone said, Bobby, you got to look at the data. Look at the data. And he said, if I finally looked and I realized there was not a chance. And so, so none of these assassinations are just crazy people.
No,
none of them.
The lone wolf is a creation of the CIA. It's a fantasy creation of the CIA.
Totally.
It's always the CIA. It's never the lone wolf. There were no lone wolves.
So Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk, there's a great story, right? And the funny thing with Charlie is once you realize that Tyler Robinson couldn't have possibly been the shooter, it just makes no sense. There's all these other sort of details about this guy doing hand signals, this guy in the front row possibly shooting him with a palm pistol and all sorts of stuff. They don't matter to me because those are all just bogeys to confuse us anyway. So there's about 8 different shooting theories. Once you convince me Tyler Robinson didn't do it, then you say, okay, it's a state-sponsored assassination. The details don't really matter.
You haven't been. I don't want to dwell on this because there could be an element of tension, but
it's not going to be an element of tension.
No. Where I am on, he's not dead.
That could.
The whole thing.
I don't know why you would do that though. Where would you hide a 6'5" guy who everyone knows what he looks like?
Okay. Let's take a step back. Once you understand that everything they do is about deception, it's all fake, and it's not. This is not a sort of counsel of despair. It's not like how can I trust anything? It's all fake. Rather, it's like it's their modus operandi. So it's not like it's a bit like discovering that your husband has been shagging women, other women on the quiet, and you've discovered that he's at least 5 names that he's shagged. If somebody starts talking to you about that there's a 6th, it's not unreasonable. You're not being kind of unusually black or bleak or negative. Paranoid. It's about pattern recognition. So it's easier for them to fake stuff than it is to kill people. It's easier it's easier for them to manage the narrative.
I actually think that the managing the narrative has gotten so professional that they don't need to do a very good job of whatever it is they did, right? So I think at one point in time they used to take great care in doing clever stuff to get away with it. Nowadays they're sloppy as shit and they just make sure the narrative just browbeats.
I'll tell you where I agree with you on that point. Sorry, I must stop poking with my.
Well, I can do back.
My twiddle device. I have noticed that they have become much more cavalier, almost to the point where they don't give a shit whether we win this anymore. It's just like, yeah, whatever.
It's almost part of the story of saying. The analogy I draw is Larry Bird, the basketball player. He used to say to his defender, he was a trash talker. He would say stuff like, he says, "I'm pissed off," to his defender. And the defender would say, why? And he said, because they've guarded me with a white guy, right? He'd say stuff like that. But at one point he'd say to defenders, he'd say, I'm going to break to the right. I'm going to pull up to a jump shot and you can't stop me. And then he'd do it and boom, he'd make it. And he would just blow their circuits. They'd eventually become broken men. And so I think the idea of flaunting it is all part of the hypernormalization.
Right? Yes. Enshittification and also the demoralization.
That's right.
Like, what can we do?
Right.
I without having looked into it, I do not believe a word of the the downed flyer rescue story. It's like it's
Well,
already
it's already
pre-scripted.
starting to fall apart. Yeah, it's already starting to fall apart, it turns out. There was some woman who was involved and someone said, what was she doing there? I'm already picking up shards of what the hell was that about?
Well, presumably they inserted a woman into the script so that in the movie she can be played by, I don't know, who are
Sigourney
they?
Weaver or something. I don't know.
Sigourney Weaver? She's a bit old now, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a bit old now.
This is the thing. Well, Dave, this is a problem I have. I was watching, have you seen a movie called The Third Man? The Third Man, it's supposed to be one of the greatest films ever made. It's got Orson Welles in it and stuff.
Okay.
And I was sitting there. This film was made in, I think, 1948.
40-something.
46. And I was watching it with my son and I going, I think isn't that Wilfred Hyde White? And isn't that, identifying the actors. And I realized that I know more about the films of my parents' generation, and I can identify all the actors from the past, but I look at stuff that kids are watching now, and I don't know who these people are at all, and I don't really care either.
Well, so I think Hollywood has a specific role. The CIA has a very big Hollywood budget, and the Chinese have a very big Hollywood budget too, to make sure. So when you watch a movie and all of a sudden China's sort of in the background, oftentimes they're in the background, but they're kind of favorable, either as in being particularly incisive. Like there was a sci-fi movie where these oblong things appeared, Awakenings or something. I don't know what it was. And
oblong things. You're selling it to me, Dave.
Yeah, I know.
Oh no!
He had
oblong things.
Butt plugs, and the Chinese were involved in helping save the day, but the CIA has a big budget. I think that Hollywood's job, one of their jobs, is to what I call fictionalize reality. So something that's true, they make a movie that tells the truth, whether it's Eyes Wide Shut, right? The satanic cults, which was filmed in a Rothschild castle where they were doing satanic shit, right? And then you got The Bourne Identity, which is classic MK Ultra, right? And you got The Good Shepherd, which is CIA crap, and what happens is that you immediately anchor what turns out to be a true story to a fictional narrative. So that you go, someone will explain MK Ultra, you go, oh, that's just Bourne Identity, and which disarms it.
Yes, that's true.
It disarms it. And so Hollywood makes movies that are true to make them seem fictional. Which is probably why they made some goddamn movie about faking the moon landing. What's that movie with Channing Tatum or something?
They did. They made it with that woman that I used to fancy. Actress.
Narrows it down to all the actresses, right?
She was in that movie about Vermeer.
Yeah, I don't know. But I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm going to watch
forget the name. But yes, you're absolutely right. It's about how Hollywood, I can't remember what their pretext is, but they have to fake the moon landings in a studio. And Capricorn wanted that as well.
And I haven't dug into the moon landing story. I would like it to be true.
Sorry, Dave.
I haven't dug into it. My brother watched one of the long documentaries on it, and I've seen shards of clips where, like, one of the astronauts in a press conference says you couldn't see the stars. I'm going, what? The stars should have been brilliant from the moon, right?
Interestingly,
and he sort of recanted on it, and there's funny things where it looks like there's duct tape on the lunar module, and there's no fumes coming out of the when it takes off, and there's just a lot of the flag blowing without wind on the moon and things like that.
You're there already, really.
I'm kind of there, but there's about a 3-hour documentary. My brother watched it and said, very convincing.
Yeah, there's Wagging the Moon Doggy, I think it is. There's
I don't know.
The thing is,
remember the name.
You actually only need. We all have our brains work in different ways. I don't know, you being a kind of a sciencey person might be won over by the science arguments against, like the Van Allen belt the fact that this huge
I mean, I don't know enough about that to be won
belt
over
of
by
radiate of so radioactive that you'd need to be, the spaceship wouldn't have to be made of kind of tin foil. It'd have to be made of lead about sort of 6 inches thick to protect the crew, which I didn't believe it
Okay.
was.
Right.
The thing that turned me into
And then who starred in Apollo 13, right? Who was the star? Tom Hanks.
Oh, yeah, I know. I've interviewed
Right?
Tom Hanks, and
What?
I now
You
feel
interviewed Tom Hanks?
I feel tainted by the experience. I wonder whether his dark
Oh, the stories, the pedo hunters chase Tom Hanks more than anybody. Tom Hanks and Oprah get pounded by what I call the pedo hunters, the guys who like Liz Crockett and Mike Smith and these guys who are out there banging the drum saying the world's filled with pedophiles and we got to get them. Tom Hanks is in their sights nonstop.
I thought he'd sort of retreated to somewhere. He was in hiding or somewhere. He's not around at the
Well, he
moment.
could be. I don't know. You know, at some point, something happened where he went public with something, and all of a sudden there were like 30,000 comments accusing him of being a pedophile. So he has to keep a low profile.
There was something a bit, yeah. There's some really creepy stuff about Tom Hanks. Did you ever see? I haven't seen it. There was a film where he gets marooned on a desert island.
Yeah, Castaway.
He makes friends with this thing on a stick
the beach ball, the volleyball.
Apparently, the beach ball is a satanic child abuse symbol type thing.
And you can see it on T-shirts and Ellen DeGeneres and all sorts of people in Hollywood. That beach ball image keeps showing up. Yes.
So, did you know that if you have in your house, like
Alexis,
African voodoo dolls or things like that, you have to be very careful what you allow into your house because they are demonic portals. And I have a copy of the Apollo 13 preview program thing signed by Tom Hanks. And I'm thinking, when I was a journalist, I used to do celebrity interviews. And I'm thinking, I must find this thing and destroy it because I don't want that demonic portal in my house.
So the Hanks thing, the interesting thing about Hanks. So Hanks, there's a video of him in which it looks like a spoof of the child beauty pageants. You know, the 5-year-old beauty pageants, which looks creepy, but it looks like it also could be a spoof. So it doesn't mean so. So I really watch for what's it really mean, what's the source, things like that. You got to be very, very careful. And then there's pictures of Tom Hanks with Oprah in which Tom's holding up a sign that says, "I'm not allowed to talk," and just weird stuff like that. Oprah's filmed repeatedly with this guy named Father of God.
John of God. I think there is something called
John of God. Yeah. And he's like doing 5 life sentences for, sex trafficking but you can say, well, Oprah knows everybody. So what does that mean? Well, there's a lot of photos of her with John of God. And then, but there's this one that's pretty incriminating where Hanks, posts a tweet, and I went and found it. So it really was a tweet, not a Photoshop of a tweet, in which there's a glove on the sidewalk and next to it says SRC USA. And he one time was on Jimmy Kimmel, who also has a bad reputation. And he's talking about this odd photographic fetish of his where he likes to take pictures of things. And he mentioned the glove and wonder where the other glove is. And so this SRC USA, and I found the tweet and it was real. And then I'm watching this video. And when you watch videos on this satanic shit, it's not CNN, right? You're at weird websites. You're at strange places. Some guy named, Mouthy Buddha, made this thing. Does very good documentaries, actually. And And they said if you search SRC USA on Google, you get nothing. On DuckDuckGo, you get nothing. You go to Yandex, and you get to a child trafficking site. So I did it. Now, if you go to Yandex, which is Russia's Google, basically. Now, it's not to say that Yandex doesn't have propaganda, but what it doesn't do is filter out the stuff we filter out.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't care if we look bad. And so you go to Yandex, and what I found was just mugshots of children. And they weren't cute kids. They were mugshots. They were the kind where, the kind you see where you go, oh my God, that kid didn't survive, sort of mugshot. Yeah. And then at one point I found someone else had done a screen grab, and I said, I got to go get my own screen grab so I can be legitimate about it. And so I went back, and it was all scrubbed. It had all been scrubbed. And if you go SRC USA now, you just find garbage. Just it doesn't actually even make any sense, garbage.
So how did they scrub it in that short time? How did they?
Oh, I think they're pretty good at scrubbing away. So, and you find traces of kids. Like, say, if you go to, I could do it right now. If you go to, can you do it and share it? Can you go to Yandex?
I don't know. Dave, I have a word brain, not a kind of tech brain.
Right. So if I go to Yandex and I search SRC USA, I'm actually not very good either. Confirm I'm not a robot. I love telling a robot I'm not a robot.
Yeah. And
then going to images. And what you see, well, there's a picture of Tom Hanks, but there's a whole bunch of SRC stuff that's just random crap that doesn't go anywhere. There's another picture of Hanks. And then every once in a while, you'll see a kid picture that really doesn't look good, but it's pretty much scrubbed. But the screen grab that I saved from someone else was spot on the same one I saw, really. And it was just kid after kid after kid mugshot, 5-year-old kids. And
what do you think it was doing? You're showing the ones that
I think it was child trafficking. Oh,
I see.
I think it was basically there's a Wayfair scandal image. You know the Wayfair scandal?
No.
So Wayfair's this online shopping thing. And there was a scandal where there were, cabinets that looked like they cost maybe $500 for $15,000, and it had names and pictures of a kid associated with it. And the claims were these kids were known missing kids. And then it turns out the CEO of Wayfair, in the most amazing things, sort of made a public statement about how they were not trafficking kids. I'm going, okay.
If you weren't trafficking kids.
Right. And then and it turns out, what does he do? He ran some organization of, orphans and, the usual thing where you want to find pedophiles. What you do is you find any organization whose purpose is to protect children.
We had something similar over here.
That's where you find the pedophiles. Yeah. So you look at the guys who are running the pedophile site, the anti-pedophile sites, and you go, those are the pedophiles.
Yeah.
And so they've commandeered. So they never catch the consumer. They never catch it. There's a picture of Ellen DeGeneres in here. But SRCOSA just became junk. There's a picture of Tony Podesta, the Podestas. There's a pair.
Well, I know. I mean, this is get offed by the Podestas or the Clintons territory. I mean,
So have you heard the audio where Tony Podesta's screaming at a kid?
No.
It's horrifying. So you can hear this guy screaming, going, "What's my name? What's really horrible?" And there's very little video associated with it. It's really chaotic. But you can hear the guy going, "What's my name? What's my name?" And the kid's screaming and crying and stuff. And then afterwards they played a picture of a video of Tony Podesta being pestered by a paparazzi. And he yells at him. They go, and they do a voice comparison with, digital shit, but you listen to it and you go, that is the same guy. And so I think the Podestas really are dirty beyond comprehension.
If they wanted to bring these people to book, they could have done it long ago. And the fact that they haven't means that they're all in on it.
Well, it's like Epstein files, right? We got nothing.
You mentioned Eyes Wide Shut. Are you familiar with the Bob Hope mask?
Tell me about it.
One of the
Bob
final...
Hope, by the way, was accused by some of the survivors of being a big problem.
Oh well, I think this will confirm your what you've heard. In the Eyes Wide Shut scene, if you put it on a still, the one at the end where they're all wearing these robes and they've got these masks on,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one mask which looks exactly like Bob Hope with his funny little sort of bobbly nose.
Oh, okay, I haven't seen that.
The Kubrick inserted that because Bob Hope was one of the very worst pedophiles. Which is probably why he lived to 100.
Supposedly died 3 weeks after that movie was released in an uncut form. And then the uncut form disappeared.
Sorry, Kubrick died.
Kubrick died 3 weeks after he released it.
I've seen one of the cuts and that freaked me out. I mean, there's all sorts of horrible... It is obviously a revelation of the method.
And you got Anne Hesh, who's supposedly making a documentary on trafficking, and she burned in a flaming car crash.
Was she not the girlfriend of Pizzagate? Well, you know, that lesbian chat show host. What's it?
No, I think that's Portia. Maybe, I don't know. But so Anne Hesh was going to make a pedophile documentary. She supposedly burned in a flaming car crash. There's a drone shot of them wheeling her out in a gurney covered, dead, a carcass, right? And she sits up.
She doesn't want to be deaded.
She doesn't want to be deaded. And her hair is not singed. Her clothes are not singed. And they push her back down and cover and jam her in the back of the thing. Now, what's interesting is earlier that day, someone had filmed her driving around, and it was the same shirt, right? So it correlated with previous videos. And so it's conceivable you and I are just getting as duped as anyone, just at a higher level.
It's conceivable, but I think you start to get quite good at what I call pattern recognition. That you see how they operate, and you get quite good at sort of, filtering out stuff that makes no sense.
Well, but the covering the eye, the satanic symbolism of the eye cover. You see someone doing that, they're in the satanic world.
Well, except that, of course, there will be on the internet images of me doing that and you doing that because
there are now.
There are now. I've done it with my brother. I've done this one and this one. You know,
I can't even do that anymore. I think
you know John Paul II, the hero pope that we were invited to believe was he was solidarity from Poland and he was great. That is the owl symbol. The owl is the symbol of well, I mean, occult evil, basically. You know, the Pope.
And how about the snake room at the Vatican?
The audience hall, the Vatican audience hall.
So if you guys are listening, just search Vatican snake room, and you'll see this 20,000 seat auditorium. That is a viper. It is a viper.
They had no idea when they would. The guy was just trying to design an auditorium. It was entirely bad luck that the windows were placed in such a way as to look like
teeth.
Snakes.
There's teeth.
That was the struts, the pillars. You. I think you've been deranged, but you've spent.
I have been
too long down. You must be a kind of magnet for a certain kind of. Do you only see undergraduates and graduates that you're teaching, or do you even teach students anymore? Do you?
I do, and once in a while I'll throw something at them, just to bait them.
Well,
I'll say like the vaccine kill more people than COVID.
And
vaccine and bad healthcare.
How do they cope?
They freak out. I said, here's the deal. I've dug into this. I've spent many hundreds, if not thousands of hours reading about this. I was in a Zoom group. By the way, Archbishop Carlo Vagano went to our Zoom group, and he started right in on all the pedophiles running European countries. Right away, just dove right in.
That's a long list. Are there any European
Well, it's all of them.
All of them, yeah.
Well, you know the Macron's wife being a dude.
It's his dad.
There's the higher... It's his dad. That's exactly. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, because Candace has been pretty quiet about that lately. And I don't know if she's pulling back on that part of the story, but that's a funny one. When I tell people that, all of a sudden they go, and they start trying to think about how can you be married to your dad. And you go, well, let's start out with a 39-year-old dating a 14-year-old who turns out to be not a chick. You're not that far away from him being the dad.
It's almost too much. I can see why, if I were Candace, why I might be rowing back on that story. It's not that it's not true. It's just that it's so absurd that it just kind of...
Well, one DNA test would tell the whole story.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
How does a waiter or waitress not grab the glasses from some dinner table at some function? And they've sued Candace. So, if I'm a judge, you're not getting anywhere in that courtroom without a DNA test.
Thing is, you've seen enough conspiracy thrillers to know that if everyone's in on it...
What'd you do to your finger, by the way? I keep looking at you.
It's what's known as an honourable injury. I was fox hunting, and I broke my finger on the neck strap of my horse. He was pulling so hard. He was an ex-racehorse, and he had no bit. I don't know whether you know about.
So you sound like you come from British elite. You got cash.
I totally am. Listen, Dave. If you can hear the contempt in my voice for you, it's because I am I'm a lowlife. You're lowlife. I'm the elite classes. I was.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I love. Do you know what? I'm toying with you. I've inserted myself into the awake movement, and yeah, it's true. I think one of the. I mean, I sometimes joke about this. I think that God was having a laugh, that he inserted me into this elite background. Like I went to Oxford and stuff and did all this, friends of future prime ministers, and so I experienced all this stuff.
You and Jimmy Savile, right?
Jimmy Savile was my... No, I never got to meet Jimmy Savile, but basically, these people were my friends, and
are any of the royals not dirty as shit?
No, I don't think so. But the thing is, here's the thing, Dave. I am friendly, or was friendly with King Charles's stepson. So King Charles is the Queen. Her son, I know him pretty well. Lovely guy, absolutely funny.
But she was
guy.
More of a commoner than, right?
Yeah, but I don't think you get to call the king your stepdad without kind of being slightly in on the game. Right. But I mean, other people, I don't know. It's very, and I often wonder about this. The people I've been fox hunting with, for example, I mean, they're not all. Some of them are farmers, and some of them are nurses, and some of them are ordinary folk like me. But some of them they've got to be toffs. They've got to be bloodlines. And I'm always babbling my conspiracy shit when I go hunting. I talk to them about God, and I talk to them about conspiracy theories.
So when I talked to Tucker after we were done, and I wouldn't say this, but he kind of went a little public on it later, but I somehow threw out a little tiny pitch about satanic cults, and he bit, and he went wild on it. Made me look like a normie.
Did he?
He made, and he's going, and they're everywhere, and this and that, and then I go, and he says, and I know these people. And 3 times during this discussion, while his staff was in there riveted, because I don't think they knew this.
Whoa.
And they're riveted, and 3 times he said to his staff, "We're not recording, are we?"
Yeah.
And so then he had a guy who wrote a book on Hollywood cults. He was the son of a famous actor, I can't remember his name, on a show, but they didn't get deep into it. So they stayed really very superficial to the point where I was like, wait a minute, You could have gone much deeper, and I think there's times he doesn't want to go deeper. I threw pitches at him during my interview that went right by him.
I think that's why he's not going to have me on his show, even though I've expressed my love for him on this podcast. Even though, Tucker, I know you're CIA, but I still love you and I want to be on your show. He won't listen to my entreaty.
Well, so I asked him, were you offered a position in the Trump administration? And he said no, but he said, but I could have had one. And I said, what one would you have wanted? And he said, I'd like to run the CIA. I've told no one that story. You're it. That's the first I've ever mentioned
that's why I went uncharacteristically silent.
There was a pregnant pause there, yes.
There really was, and you don't often get pregnant pauses from me. That is.
No, I don't shut up either. I don't.
No, exactly. Well, I think that's why we get on. We're both
right.
Are you? Do you feel that you're on the spectrum or something, or what?
No.
I don't.
If I was on the spectrum, college would have been easier. Yeah, no, I have to work really hard.
My children are telling me on the spectrum all the time, but that's only because everyone is trying to overdiagnose every condition. I think I'm completely normal.
Someone said we didn't have ADHD when we were kids; they were just assholes.
Yeah. I think it's. When you asked me earlier on what my condition was that made me skinny as like the Belson thing, I don't even believe in autoimmune is just another invented thing. I think ultimately everything comes down to vaccines. Did you get vaxxed? What?
Did you get vaxxed?
What, the COVID thing? No, I woke up.
I had to either do that or give up my job.
And did you suffer from it?
Hard to say. I didn't suffer badly from it. I also had no immediate effect or anything, whereas my research group went together to get the first jab, and they're all bedridden the next day. And I gotta figure that's not a good sign.
They got the bad batch. Maybe you were lucky you didn't.
Yeah, and so I do have some psoriasis, and my knees hurt, but I'm also overweight, and so
Dave, I've got terrible psoriasis at the moment, and it's not from. There seems to be a bit. It's really annoying me, actually. I just wanted to come back to your point about you get exposed to generation whatever they are. What do they call this?
Yeah, right. I don't know. Generation. Who knows?
Are they a bunch of panty waists?
They're getting better.
Are they?
So here are the two things I think are changing. Last year in my sophomore class, I had 25 kids, and they were all the shy kid phenotype. So it's like, how do you have 25 shy kids in one class? Especially in a school where, to get into the school, you not only have to have good grades, but you have to be editor-in-chief of your yearbook or something, captain of the football team. There's just various things that we're looking for that show that you're special. And to have 25 shy kids doesn't make sense. And the whole class was just dead. And this year it's much better. Now, I think there's two potential reasons. One is what I've been told, and I actually spoke to the principal of our local high school about it recently, and he concurred. The whole woke shit's moving past. And so now being a transgender is not cool. It's not something that makes you special. You're just a dipshit. Right. And so the kids are not gravitating to that to be special anymore. And the kids who are not transgender are not kowtowing to them and stuff like that. And then the other thing is we've gotten, again, a year further away from the lockdown, which the first thing I noticed with the lockdown is that the kids arrived on campus, they were fatter than shit. Now, I don't notice if the guys were fatter than shit because that's not who I was looking at. But the chicks were fatter than shit. And now they look great again. So I think they've lost their COVID-15.
That is very good to hear. I do think that it's I think when you look into things like satanic elites and stuff, what you realize is that these people hate human beings, and they're waging war on all the things that are beautiful about us. And so inevitably, when they make girls overweight, for example, they're making them unattractive, which means that they're less likely to find sexual partners and settle down with. It's a war on us. So I'm glad that the girls are becoming normal again, and the boys are becoming a bit more like boys, maybe.
But what if someone jumps into this video and hasn't been down this rabbit hole at all, they're fried now, right? They've either stopped listening because they think we're completely psychotic, or they're I did a podcast with a guy who'd not been down this rabbit hole. And by the end of the podcast, I dragged him down there. And then 6 months later, I did a podcast. He was a completely different person. He had gone. A guy named J.J. Carroll, who was a border guard, who started his public life talking about the southern border and how the people were getting across and what it was like rounding up people, stuff like that. And within 6 months, he was New World Order, everything. And I did a couple Podcasts with him. And then I was talking to a guy named Ryan Mata, who makes documentaries. And it was really interesting because he knew JJ. And I said, what's amazing about JJ is the speed with which he transformed from just being a border guard screaming about how the southern border got perforated to New World Order. He was interviewing survivors of satanic cults and shit. I mean, he was really, and Mata was he says, oh my God, that's absolutely true. He just morphed right in front of our eyes. Right. And so you go down one of these rabbit holes, you can really, really change quickly when you start discovering there's an entire ecosystem below the surface.
I think that I think if you're remotely sentient and have reasonably functioning synapses, once you are given permission to look for the truth, once all the kind of the barriers to discovery are taken away, you can pick up very, very quickly information that has been denied to you by the system all your life.
It's the pattern recognition, right?
Yeah, it is, because everything connects. And look at all those people out there. I mean, like you were vaguely receptive to the moon landings being bollocks stuff. That what's keeping people back is not the absurd. All the information is out there in front of their eyes. Rockets shaped like dildos with Katy Perry in it. I mean, it's like absurd. But they have a kind of limiter switch in their head, which prevents them from making the obvious connection that this is bollocks. Look at it; it's a dildo. But once that limiter switch has been taken out, they can go anywhere.
Yeah, it's like that boy love symbol that shows up in all the Disney movies and stuff, right?
And on
you see it everywhere.
What's that series about the geeky science kids? The comedy series. They're all. See, I don't watch much mainstream TV anymore. You know the one I mean about they're all kind of autistic science students.
No, I don't. I wouldn't watch a geeky science kid movie.
Well, it's comedy, but they've all got he wears pedo symbols on his t-shirts and on his pajamas.
So Hollywood really is corrupt to the core. It's almost arguable that you can't succeed in Hollywood without basically doing the blood ritual sort of, rite of passage.
Well, yes, there was always the Mel Gibson question. Is Mel one of them or not?
Well, the other thing about Mel is when you watch him is he also looks nuts now. Right? He really looks unstable.
They could say that about us, Dave.
No. But he sits there and he gets these real bug-eyed looks. He really looks unstable to me. And it could be he was driven nuts because it's been going on for a long time. But he did hit dark patches. There's some some things that he did that were a sign that either it had driven him nuts or he was sort of kind of nuts already. So Mal has a credibility problem. I think he's not lying to us, but he's not the best spokesperson. I'd like to get Denzel Washington drunkard and shit and get him spilling his guts. I bet he could tell us stories that
Any particular reason why Denzel Washington?
I think he's walked from many of those. I think he's been able to duck them.
Really?
That's what my read is that when presented, like goes to a Diddy party and then runs out, just gets the fuck out of there ASAP.
Well, he leaves before midnight when it all goes.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And is critical of them and things like that. And the irony is actually Harvey Weinstein might have been one of the only guys who didn't commit a crime. What he did was potentially disgusting by any standard, but it might have been totally legal.
You've said some controversial things today, Dave, but I think people are going to be.
I've heard other people say that though.
Oh, really?
That's not just my idea. Look at my Twitter feed someday and look at the bio. Let me read it to you exactly. And no one has ever noticed this. No one has ever noticed my bio on Twitter.
Okay.
And I've pointed it out. And I write, I change it a little bit. Complacency bubble believer. I, by the way, get credit for calling it a complacency bubble. Conspiracy theory is not in Epstein files. And then I write, opinions and ideas expressed are not my own.
Very, very good. Very good.
So I find that funnier than shit. No one's ever said, I didn't even notice that.
No one's congratulated you.
Sounds like your standard disclaimer, except if you think about it, you go, opinions and ideas expressed are not my own. Right?
I was in the Epstein files.
Is that right?
Well, yeah, I think my kids checked, and they discovered one entry, which was basically an advert. Somebody probably sent him at some stage an email invitation to this debate in
So
Trump's.
tell me about beef jerky. Tell me about beef jerky.
It was saying I was selling some beef jerky, special beef jerky.
Come on, you're lying your ass off.
No, just Dave, it's completely normal. Beef jerky and pizza.
Grape soda.
I just wanted to know whether anyone wanted to buy it.
6 to 8 ounces refrigerated.
Yeah. You read it. No, it was. I was in some debate about is President Trump a good president or not, and at the time I thought he was. And anyway, that was my limited entry into the.
We're gonna find out for sure what beef jerky is. Do you think? Are we ever gonna find out for sure?
I think we know. I think it's just.
I think we know, but we don't know. No, it's you couldn't know in a court of law. No,
it's a known unknown.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you want to know any more than that? I don't want to know that.
No, the one thing I know is when elites who have enough money to pay for their own personal chef are ranting and raving about beef jerky and grape soda over and over and over, there's something wrong because beef jerky is not the food stuff of billionaires.
Well, why do you think that Bob Hope lived to what was it, 101? 100?
Oh, the whole idea of eternal life, the whole adrenochrome story, I know.
Yeah.
And who is it? One of them, Sandra Bullock or someone.
That's a man.
Admitted it on a talk show. Is that a dude?
Yeah.
Oh,
if you look at the early interviews, before when he was just sort of emerging onto the scene, it's so obvious that you just go, how could I ever have doubted that the guy was a dude?
God, I always thought she was really hot.
Yeah, I know that's what they do. I used to fancy.
Did you ever see Pink Flamingos?
What?
Pink Flamingos, John Waters?
I did, yes.
So there's this. Well, that's where the mother-in-law lived in a crib eating eggs. Just would say eggs, Babs. And there was Divine, who was this bizarro character, and the whole idea was the two families were vying to be the most grotesque families in the world. I mean, it was a truly surreal movie. But there's this one chick who's the most normal-looking chick in the whole movie, And the guy would go to the park and he would flash himself to women in the park. This guy would flash himself and he'd tie a salami to his dick and flop it out. And this woman laughs at him and she flops out a breast and flops it back. And the guy gets frustrated and she does it again. And then finally she lifts up her skirt and she's a dude. And I'm sitting there going, the most normal person in the movie was transgender.
Yeah. Well, this is how they. So look at. Have you ever considered how many sort of classic Hollywood films involve men pretending to be women? So you're told that some like it hot. Oh, I love Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis. Oh, it's just one of my favorite films.
There's a Tom Hanks TV show where he was pretending to be a chick. He and another guy were two women. And
then there's Tootsie with Dustin Hoffman.
Tootsie? Yeah.
So partly it's humiliation ritual, which they will have to undergo. But partly it's they like to mess with our notions of gender, and of who is fanciful and who isn't. I mean, for example, who was the one in Barbie the movie?
Oh, Gosling.
No,
and
the guy who played the Barbie. That's a man, probably.
The chick.
Yeah,
the blonde chick.
The chick.
Really?
Yeah, he's got a name that makes you think, that gives you a clue.
Emma Stone? Is that Emma Stone?
No,
Robbie.
Yeah, Robbie.
Her name is Robbie.
Yeah. Hello, Robbie. Is that a boy's name? Margot Robbie.
Well, he's hot too.
Wait, he is kind of hot, but you see, you just don't know. You see, you may have given yourself hand relief in your youth over people that
never even crossed my mind.
Yeah, but you may have done it over boys, thinking it was a girl.
Well, that's possible.
That's how they get you, Dave. It's how they take you down.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. I know. I'm sorry I feel that each podcast we do together.
Hey, I tell you what movie you might like. Begonia. You got to write this down, Begonia. You got to watch the movie Begonia. It's a cult. It's a real cult movie. I'm cult not in the occult, but rather just one of these ones like Buckaroo Banzai Across the Fifth Dimension sort of movie. Yeah, Begonia. It really is funnier than shit.
Is it? Okay.
It's funny. It's quirky. It's weird. Great twist ending. Yeah.
I've got to the stage where I find watching mainstream movies so traumatic because I find the emotional manipulation. I don't like having my feelings.
Damn it! I'm looking at Margot Robbie here, and boy, there are some serious jawlines in there.
Yeah. And how's the Adam's apple looking? Has she had it shaved?
I don't see an Adam's apple.
No, well, they're quite good. Same with Taylor Swift.
I don't see any Adam, but these can all be Photoshopped too.
It's that's the thing. You just don't know. I could even be wrong. It could even be that these people are actually women. Imagine how weird that would be. But I don't think so. Okay, I'm going to check out Begonia. Yeah, I was going to say, I can almost only bear to watch European art movies these days.
It looks like Margot Robbie has women's shoulders. Women's shoulders have a different. Men's shoulders slope down. Women's shoulders have an upturn.
I'll tell you who hasn't got women's shoulders.
Looks like a chick.
You're one of your beloved former first ladies.
Well, that narrows it down. George Bush's wife.
Oh well, yeah. Obviously, she's Aleister Crowley's daughter.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh God, I hadn't even heard that one.
Son, I think. Son. No, okay. I was thinking.
Whatever. Aleister Crowley, really?
Yeah. I was thinking of Mikey, of Big Mike.
Oh, Big Mike, yeah, Big Mike.
I mean, Big Mike. You've seen Big Mike photographed from behind. I mean, those shoulders, they're quarterback shoulders, aren't they? They're not girly shoulders.
Margot Robbie looks like girl shoulders to me.
Yeah, well, listen, you can still keep cracking one off over Robbie if you want.
Well, here's the interesting question: as AI gets better, you're not even going to need porn chicks.
Yeah, you're not going to. Well, you see,
and then here's the question: as AI gets better and the porn slips into child porn, is that illegal?
Oh, I know. It's all.
I don't think so.
No,
I once asked a lawyer that question.
But that's how that's all part of our dark overlord's satanic plan. I mean, that's what they want. They'll corrupt us any which way. Right. I have now, because my wife brought me a cup of tea during that, I am now wriggling around like I need a pee. So I think we'll bring this chat to an end. Tell us, Dave, where we can find you. Oh, you put it about, don't you? You do a lot of podcasts.
I do too many. Let us just say that this one wasn't repetitive of others. Normally, I don't go this deep into this weird stuff. It was good we didn't talk about Iran. You can find me at Twitter at David B. Collum. I write a year in review, which is my top tweet. I had a funny story this year where my year in reviews over the last 17 years got bound by a gold bug named Bob Moriarty. And he paid for the editor to straighten him out and get him ready for publication and everything. And so I had to write a dean's report. And I'd wrapped up my research program a year ago on purpose. And I was about to say I didn't achieve shit this year. This was not a big year for me because I've wrapped up my program. And then I realized, I go, you published 17 books. They average it's over 4,000 pages that I published this year from these annual reviews that I write. And I go, I published 17 books this year. So that makes Stephen King look like a biker.
It does. And we know how important publication is.
You can get those at Amazon. And I'm told by people who've read the 17 that it's actually a good read, even after all these. The reason he did it, he said he did it because it chronicles 17 years of history through a lens that no one else is looking through.
Not history, made up shittery.
And trying to figure out, so that I wrote about Epstein and I wrote about the Las Vegas shootings and stuff like that. And you don't necessarily get the truth. What you do though is you find the bullshit and you say, I'm still trying to figure out where Charlie Kirk came from, for example. So I know that Erica Kirk is MK Ultra. She's got to be MK Ultra, right? She's got to be.
I think Charlie Kirk was scripted.
I think Charlie Kirk was scripted too because he came out of nowhere. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. I've been watching Candace Owens, who I think is really smart, and waiting for her to tell me that because she knew him well. And I haven't seen it, but someone said, "Oh no, she has made several allusions to Charlie being scripted." And I just don't know where those allusions are. But so Charlie gets pulled out of high school, doesn't go off to college or anything, and some billionaire takes him under his wing and decides he's going to create an empire.
Yeah.
From this kid, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. And I met him once. I found him, I found him, inauthentic.
I thought he was a grifter.
Yeah.
But so I was supposed to have dinner with he and Candace. They were supposed to come to Cornell and give a talk, and I was scheduled to have dinner, but the talk got canceled for the usual reasons that talks get canceled on campuses. And so I never got to do it. I wish I had, because I would have loved to have gotten a read on him.
Yeah.
Not knowing at the time that I was getting a read on someone historically interesting.
Dave, I now need that pee. It's been fantastic talking to you. I've really enjoyed it.
Can I give you one pearl of wisdom? Two pearls of wisdom. One is keep a cup next to your desk and you pee into the cup.
Yeah. Second
pearl of wisdom, if you're drinking ginger ale, this is personal experience, do not mix up those two cups.
Thank you, Dave. It's been a joy as always. And if we've got any chemistry students, I would say you want to go to your university and have not a shit experience, go to Cornell.
I agree.
Yeah.
Cornell's a great place. It really is.
Great. Thanks, Dave. It's been great talking to you.
You got it. Adios.
Adios.
James.